Hello and welcome back to Ironbark Benny's. I'm Ironbark Benny and today we're cooking brisket. She's going to be a huge cook, minimum 20 hours. I'm going to show you how we get this thing trimmed up, how we get it seasoned, how we get some good smoke rolling on the pit, and at the end of it, how good it tastes. Can't wait to get this thing started, so let's get to it. Well, here we are over at the cutting board. I've got this huge 7.5 kilo piece of Aberdeen Black Angus brisket here. It's a full packet cut, meaning she's got the flat down this end, we've got the point up this end, and it's all still one piece. That's how I like to cook my briskets. Right, so what's important about this is that we get it trimmed up. We cut off any little edges that are going to burn up in the cook. We get a nice even layer of fat across the flat part here so it doesn't dry out. We're going to take the fat off the point end. We're going to get under this decal here and we're going to take this big chunk of heavy fat out. It's never going to cook down, never going to render out. And then once we've done all that, we're going to be ready to season. Now this takes a very sharp knife. The colder the brisket, the better. You want that fat nice and hard so you can slice through it easy. Once that brisket warms up, it's going to be very hard to cut the fat off. So we're going to do all that. I'm going to speed things up now. You're going to see this process as it happens. Take your time, have some fun, and we'll be ready to season up in a minute. Cheers. Okay, so here we are. We've got the brisket unwrapped. I've just washed it off with a bit of fresh water and then pat dry with a tea towel, and it's ready to trim up. As you might see, I've got the underneath side of the brisket here. I like to start on the bottom, just my preference. The good news is this is actually looking pretty good as a starting point. There's not too much to take off here, but I'm going to go ahead and just trim off some of these bits of fat here and just get it a bit squared up. So stick with me. Okay, we're going to start this top side by picking up the point end here where you saw me trim out before in the underneath side. So we've got these two kind of muscles here, the flat and the point end. I'm pretty happy with the way the point end's looking. There's a lot more hard fat under here, so I'm just going to come down under here and take out this big triangle of hard fat. I'm a bit happier now with that. And then basically what I'm going to do with the point end is come across about here with the knife. And from here backwards we're going to take the fat off. From here down I'm going to leave the fat on. I am going to trim it down a little bit because this fat is just a little bit thick through here. But first of all I'm going to get to taking off the point end. Okay, so now you can see I've got the point end trimmed up very nicely. Just a little bit of fat still left on there, but nothing much. Nothing that I'm going to worry about. I've got a lot of the silver skin off. I mean, you can go all day trimming these things up, but you know, at the end of the day, it's going to cook for 24 hours, so yeah, there's not really a need to go too hard, and I certainly am not cooking for competition today, so I don't really mind. You can see I've left all the fat on the flat side of the brisket. There's this dome of fat through the middle here, you can see. I am going to need to just run the knife through that, and unfortunately my knife is starting to blunt, and not only that, the fat's starting to warm up, so it's getting a little bit jelly-y. It's getting a little bit hard to work. But there you can see I've taken a lot of fat off there. It's just smoothed that out a little bit, taken that dome off. Now I'm just going to take a look at the brisket here. See any lean edges that I know are just going to burn up in the cook. You can see this little piece of flat down the side here. I'm just going to go through and take that straight off. It's not going to do any good during the cook. It's just going to get burned and horrible. Another trick I'm going to look at, we're going to come along here and just square up the edge as well. Make sure that doesn't burn off. Now we've got to look at the grain here. So the brisket runs, you can see the grain of the flat is running this way, and it runs down to this point corner here, and it's running in this direction. So what I'm going to do is a little trick. I'm going to take a triangle off at right angles, and that's going to tell me when I come to cutting later how I'm going to cut this brisket. I'm going to start down here and work my way across until we're square up on the flat here. So we're looking good here. The brisket is trimmed. The brisket's looking beautiful. I've taken a hell of a lot of fat off it, probably about 1 kilo, down to maybe 6 kilos now, and she's ready for seasoning. Okay, it's time to season this brisket. Now normally I like to keep things really simple with brisket. Salt and pepper suits me just fine. I like the flavour of beef. I don't think it needs anything added to it. But today's a little bit special. This is our first video, so I'm going to be adding just to a base layer of Pork Mafia's Texas Gold rub. It's just a mustard powder, got a little bit of vinegar powder in there, just a few nice bitter tones to bring that to make that beef pop a little bit. I'm also going to be injecting it. We're going to run with just a little injection of a little bit of soy sauce, beef stock, water, and about a tablespoon of our Texas Gold. So that's just going to go in. It's going to give it a little bit of punch from the inside out, and she's going to be amazing. Check it out. Okay, to get the seasoning ready, I'm going to take 1 cup of coarse ground kosher salt, half a cup maybe, same again of coarse ground black pepper, and give it a good old stir up. And that's ready to go straight on a brisket. Okay, here we are back at the board, ready to season this brisket. We're starting with the underneath side, and I'm first of all going to hit it with a nice light dusting of our Pork Mafia Texas Gold. I'm going to go nice and light on this, nothing too heavy, just a good even coating to give us a nice little bite. Get the edges, don't forget them. Come up under here, under the decal. Okay, I'm happy with that, with the Pork Mafia. Now I'm going to hit it with the salt and pepper that we mixed up earlier. I'm just going to get my hands in here and do it. Now what you don't want to do is be scared of over seasoning this. And this is one hell of a big piece of meat. It can handle the salt and pepper. It doesn't need to be under seasoned. It doesn't need to be over seasoned either. So we're just going to go like this, give it a real nice layer of salt and pepper. I prefer my pepper heavy, so I'm going to be hitting this again with just a little additional layer of pepper. And that's starting to look real good, this underneath side. Get up here on this end here, this point end. Over we go. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to come back now with this coarse ground pepper and give it another little dusting. Now that looks like a lot of seasoning, but trust me, this baby can handle it. Give it a little pat in. And I'm going to leave that 10 minutes for that to start sweating and all stick to the meat before I come back, flip it over and do the top side. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. That bottom side tacked up nicely. When I flipped it over, because it was tacky, none of that salt, pepper or rub fell off it. It's all stuck to it nicely. So now I'm back here, I flipped it over, and I'm going to come and do exactly the same process to the top side. Okay, there's our brisket. She's all seasoned up and ready for injecting. I'm going to get set up for this injection. After that, she's going to sit out on the cutting board for about an hour and a half to come up to room temperature. Then she'll be ready for the smoke. Stick around. Today I'll be using the new injector. Never used this baby before, but she looks very good. Got the nice pipe in here. I'm going to drop that straight into the injection, into my coffee pot, and pump it through a few times and we'll be ready to inject. Okay, we're going to fill this beast full of injection. Starting at the point end, working our way down. Some of it might fall out, some of it might squirt back out, but that's alright. We're just going to go through and keep going until she's done. Here we are, got the charcoal ready to go into the charcoal basket. I'm going to demonstrate how we set this barrel up for a long, slow cook. First time I've ever done this, so it's a little bit of an experiment, but I'm sure it's going to work just fine. So here what I'm doing is quickly running a couple of rings of charcoal briquettes around the bottom of the charcoal barrel. It's going to be standing up on end, so it's a nice little domino style setup, and I'm going to run a secondary ring on top of that, so I've got 2 layers of beads standing up on end, and then I'm going to tip the rest of this bag of charcoal in on top of that, and I'm hoping that keeps me running for 20 to 24 hours. I might have to restoke the fire at some point. I'll just have to gauge it. Okay, we've got this charcoal basket full. It's got 2 nice even layers around the bottom, and then I've piled the rest on top. Oh, it's a hefty firebox. Down into the bottom of the smoke she goes. And we're going to get ready to light some coals. So back in with our grill grate, just to help get the coals started. Okay, I've got half a chimney of charcoal. Just enough to get this baby started. Okay, our coals are hot and ready to go into the barbecue. Okay, we've got the heat deflector, the grill plate, and a big water pan in the barbecue. She's rolling some nice smoke, as you can see, ready to get the lid on, lock these vents down and find a stable temperature. Okay, let's get this lid on and these vents locked down. It's tradition around here to crack a beer on the smoker when we light it up. Okay, it's 8:30 p.m. Brisket's been hanging out on the cutting board for a couple of hours. It's up to room temperature. Smoker's locked in at about 250 Fahrenheit right now, which I'm quite happy about. We'll take it down a little bit over the next few hours, down to about 225 if I can. But 250 is a good starting point. Let's get this beast on the barbecue. Here we are with our brisket, ready to go on. Going to set this exactly how we want it to cook, because it's going to stay in the shape that we put it in now. So here we are, we're going to set up the temperature probes for the cook. I've got the Inkbird Pro here running on Wi-Fi, and I've got 3 probes in the meat, just as you saw. So I need to set one probe up as a alarm for my temperatures on the grill rack to tell me if the barbecue is getting too hot or too cold. So I'll be setting up a temperature range of 220 degrees to somewhere in the vicinity of 250 degrees today. And that'll give me a good base point. It'll wake me up if the barbecue's getting hot. It'll also wake me up if the barbecue's getting cold. I'm going to set both of the probes that are in the meat to 155 degrees today. That's going to be the point which I want to wrap the brisket. It's going to need to wrap up in butcher's paper today. And that's going to be right when the stall happens. We're going to go into a stall. But the butcher paper will help us push through. So there's my first alarm set up. The probes are in the meat, and the way I see it, we're ready to go. Alright team, it's been a long day so far. It's just gone 9 p.m. at night. This brisket's probably going to need its wrap at around 2 or 3 a.m. I'm not really sure, but we'll find out when that alarm goes off. I've got a hell of a lot of mess to clean up, so I'm going to go and get to it. Then I'm going to kick back, put on a movie, and chill out for a few hours. I'll see you soon. Welcome back. It's now 1:30 in the morning. My temperature probes have hit 160 degrees. The flat's a little bit ahead of the point, as to be expected. But we're starting to slow down, which means we're hitting the stall. It's time for me to get this brisket wrapped up. We're 5 hours into the cook, and then get it wrapped up, get it back on the pit, hopefully get a bit of sleep, and let's see, 15 hours, 16 hours more, might be done. We'll see how we go. Okay, here we are out of the pit. It's, like I said, 1:30 in the morning. This brisket is looking and smelling amazing at this point in time. It's not as dark as what you sometimes shoot for, but then again, I've been going really low and really slow on it. I'm going to wrap it up and get it through the stall for a few hours, and I may well unwrap it again for the last few hours just to get some nice dark bark going on the outside. She's off to the cutting board to get wrapped up in butcher paper now. And my God, is it smelling good. Hello and welcome back to a whole new day. It's been about 12 hours since the brisket went on. I managed to get a few hours sleep overnight. Had to get up a few times just to check things, but that barbecue's been locked in at 237, 240 Fahrenheit all night long. It's been rock steady. And actually about 10 minutes ago, the barbecue alarm went off. Looks like the flat is actually cooked or getting close to cooked. I'm gonna have to pull this thing off. Gonna have to check what's happening in there. It's quite possible that that flat's done. It's not the thickest of flats, even though it's a big brisket. And there's a potential that what we're gonna have to do is separate off the flat so that we stop that cooking, stop it drying out, and get the point end back on the barbecue for a few more hours. So I'm gonna run out to the smoker, get this brisket off, bring it into the kitchen, and we're gonna check out what it looks like. Okay, it's been about 11 hours and this butcher paper's done a really good job. My temperature probe that's in the flat is actually indicating that the flat's up around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Probably means it's getting very close to cooked and done and tender. Unfortunately, the point is nowhere near that yet, so we're in one of these dilemmas that you get with a brisket, whether to separate the flat, keep that off the barbecue and get the point back on the barbecue, or whether to keep going. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this open now. We're going to have a bit of a probe around with the thermopen and have a think about what we're going to do. Okay, as you can see, she's looking bloody amazing and the steam's coming off. Now what I'm going to do is just not only check for temperature on the thermopen, but I'm going to be testing for how this brisket feels. And oh my God, man, like this is butter. This is absolute butter. And we've got right here in the middle, 205 Fahrenheit. I don't know if you can see that, but that thermopen is just sliding in there all by itself. I think to cook this flat any further would be sacrilege. I think what we're gonna have to do, if we look down here, we're only at 170. So I think what we're gonna have to do is separate. We're gonna have to cut the flat, take it off now, otherwise we're gonna overcook it. Wrap up the point end again, get it back on the barbecue. It's probably got another few hours. I'm amazed that this flat is done so quickly. That's really quick, that's really efficient, and the barbecue's only been at about 235 all night. So great cook, and this is just butter. This is outstanding. So let's cut it. Get another board here, transfer the flat straight over to that board. Oh my God, this thing is just, oh wow, can you see this juice? Look at this. I gotta get this point back on the barbecue, so let me do that and then I'll be back with you. Okay, I'm back at the kitchen. The brisket flat's been resting for about an hour and a half now, and the brisket point has just come off the barbecue. It looks great, it's hit its temperature nicely, and I'm ready to cut open the brisket flat and do a few slices for you guys. This is the money shot, this is what we've all been waiting for. Let's get to it. Okay, here's our brisket flat, ready for a few slices to be taken. You can see I took a corner off earlier just to test, I'm super happy with the way this has come out. I just want to show you how juicy, moist and jiggly this is. And here we go, let's take a few slices. Oh man, would you look at this? That is just perfect. Let's get a little look here. So this piece, the real acid test, is how it'll dangle around the finger. And it'll hold together real nicely around my finger, just like that. And then the pull test, oh man, it doesn't get much better than that. Look at the juiciness in this thing. It is just dripping with juice, glistening, and it's ready for a taste. Alright, here we go. I've got this delicious piece of brisket over here, freshly cut, just absolutely dripping with juice, tender as it gets. Got a beautiful smoke ring. You can see that nice layer of fat over here on the right hand side. That's just gonna be absolutely to die for. Here we go, here's the moment. Holy shit. The fat is like butter. With salt and pepper, not too much, like I said, it can handle it. It's perfect, it just brings out those flavors. And in the background, a little bit of that mustard flavor, a little bit of sweetness from the vinegar powder and that rub. Oh man, this is, it does not get better. That is as good as it gets for brisket. I can't wait to try the point end, because the point end's normally better than the flat. If that's what this flat's like, wow, we got something special coming. Stay tuned for when I unwrap the point. Alright, so here we are. We've got the point end of the brisket. You can see it's lovely and dark. We've got all this bark. We've got the pepper and salt across the top. It's running, the grain's running this way. I'm going to cut it straight in half here. We'll go down the center and just have a look at what we're cooking with. Oh, and we're cooking with some seriously tasty looking meat here. I'm going to take this piece off right here. I don't know if you can see this, but this is just juicy, dripping, tender. I'm going to cube that up. I'm going to go across. These are the burnt ends, these are the best bits, these are pitmaster privilege right here. I'm going to take this bit right here, this is going to be me. I mean, would you take a look at this? That's just nuts. Alright, here we go. I've got this big chunk of burnt end right here. It's crispy on the outside, dark, absolutely delicious. The inside is juicy and moist, and I'm going to take a bite. That, my friends, is utter perfection. That, it's falling apart. And the beef flavor, that's what's singing here. There's just beef flavor. There's no crazy spices, there's no crazy herbs on there making it taste like anything other than beef. The injection is hardly noticeable. You can just, it's just that little bit of juice, that little bit of savory flavor in there from that injection, but it hasn't changed the flavor of the meat one little bit. Man, I encourage you all to have a crack at this. I mean, it's not that hard. If you know how to control your temperatures of your pit, you can do this. Start with a smaller brisket, maybe aim for something around 8 to 10 hours. But man, you just got to give a crack at this. You can't not. It's just too good. Oh. Alright, well that's it. That's the end of the inaugural Ironbark Benny's barbecue cook-up video. It's been one hell of a ride and kicked off around this time yesterday. I feel fresh, I feel good. That brisket was absolutely on point. I could not be any happier with the way that came out. I could not be happier with the way that barbecue, that pit just locked in at temperature. I literally, that cooked much faster than I thought, and it wasn't that I was cooking hot, it was just that nice even burn, and then wrapping in that butcher paper just absolutely nailed it. Big shout out to Bob's Family Butcher over in Hatfield for supplying that awesome bit of meat. I've been to see you guys a few times, never disappointed, and I'll be back again soon. And finally, just like to say thanks everyone for sticking around and watching. I can't wait to bring more videos very soon. I've got another plan up my sleeve. And happy Easter. I hope you're going alright in lockdown. Make the most of it, have some fun, don't let it get you down. I certainly am not. We'll see you next time. Ironbark out.